Welcome to Tea Trail. I'm your host, T Rad, and on today's episode of Tea Trail Nature's TV, we're going to be looking at shame and how it's kept me running all of these years, where it came from, how we go about recognizing it, feeling it, and transmuting it. Have a little look at the karmic side of things, and how unless we turn and face our shame, then we only ever make teeny tiny steps of progress, and more often than not we'll climb the ladder just to fall back down. So shame, where did it come from? So I guess shame comes from the control others pose over us, believing that we are separate from each other. It comes from the competitive world we live in. It comes from generation after generation of being controlled by people who believe that we are separate and that they are better than us, that they have a right to control us. So in the galactic scale of things, and looking at the story of humanity and how that is a lot longer than we've been led to believe, the story I believe, and which resonates for me, is that a group of beings arrived on this planet, on Earth, after having almost destroyed their own planet. And that came around through ultimately competition and greed, and a movement away from being whole and integrated beings into that of being male orientated, so logic driven, competitive, non-creative, non-expressive, unwilling to feel their emotions. Kind of fucked their own planet, so they came to this planet and they needed to mine gold for them to sustain and regenerate their planet, which they did that by enslaving the original inhabitants of Earth and making them mine gold. These were the beings then that altered our genetics and our DNA and kind of melded us into a form of being that enabled them to carry on with what they were doing. So if that story is a little far-flung for you, then we can step forward into our modern day history and look at slavery, which has happened in various forms. From the times in the West Indies and Africa, and that of colonialism, and so I guess what's that, like maybe in the last 500 years? Ships, mate, and the move from piracy into monarchy. So the children that were kept as slaves, they were punished in front of their mothers, hung, drawn, quartered and the likes, and that would instill a huge sense of fear into the moms of the children, which would then ensure that the actions of those mothers would keep on putting their children back into the hands of the captors to carry out their wishes and demands, and it would keep them in some respects safe, or at least not being killed, which, yeah, just incredible, hey, the history. And then moving forward into More modern times, the Industrial Revolution, the big employers had their own judicial system, effectively, and this was, again, moving on from the slavery of the West Indies, it was corporal punishment. So our bodies would be like just whipped to within an inch of their lives if we didn't do what we were told. And a lot of this is our souls know what's right, but because we come from this place of control and fear for the pain which could be caused by those who were controlling us, we keep on putting ourselves in these situations which are detrimental to not only ourselves, but also that of the collective, and they keep us confined within the walls of fear as opposed to moving on out, mate, and moving on up. So that was the Industrial Revolution, and now we know that in today's age we are controlled by debt, which is in itself illegal, it's fraudulent, but we keep on grasping at those jobs just over broke, which keep us within the system, and it keeps us doing the same things which our parents did, and their parents did, and their parents before that. So now at this juncture in time where consciousness is rising and we're looking at the darkness within and we're looking at the darkness without, and we are shining lights on the darkness without, and we are integrating the darkness within, for us to be able to share the stories, which if we were to throw our curtains wide open, our stories are pretty similar. So being able to share the stories and then being able to recognise our triggers, that which causes us shame, the circumstances and the people, and then being able to feel that shame, which we've become so scared of our emotions and a disconnection from one another that a huge wealth of addictions have arisen, and I mean it's a vast list, right, of which for me cannabis has been one for a long time, smoking cigarettes, Facebook recently has become an addiction for me. So in our unwillingness to feel our emotions, which were driven out of us over generations, we don't reach for alcohol and drugs and shopping, and life is ultimately a feeling. It's how we feel and how we think, and when that is controlled by triggers within us, then we keep on repeating the same patterns over and over. So super blessed to have come across some incredible souls who have helped point me in the direction of recognising my triggers and offering me the space and the situations to recognise my own shame and to feel it, to transmute it, and move on in the direction of my dreams. So there are lots of people going through it at the moment, and as we, on our cosmic journey, move back towards the centre of our galactic sun and consciousness rises, more and more of these feelings of shame and guilt are arisen in us. And when we don't accept them, when we push them away, then addictions will become more and disease will increase. Everything is energy, right? And these feelings of shame are real low-level vibration things, so they stop us feeling our highest high. they keep us, yeah, just existing, hey, not creating, which is what we are. So that's kind of where it came from. I suppose some examples, not necessarily just me, but there would be some in there. So the male and females, in this Western world as we know it, over a prolonged period of shame being used to, and control being used to keep the quo as it is, men, their predominant attribute became that of abandonment, which means they became dismembered from their true self and became these robotic creatures which couldn't express themselves, non-creative. And then women became manipulative, and after years of being at the receiving end of men who couldn't control themselves, express themselves and feel their emotions, that gave way to violence and abuse on all sorts of levels. So then women became manipulative, which led them again to become abusers as well. So we've ended up in this kind of soup of just people so scared of their emotions and disconnected from each other that addictions have risen, and the amount of disease we're looking at now in the world is just vast, hey? So to be able to transmute that shame, mate, and move into a state of well-being and our whole selves is pretty important on our cosmic journey. So yeah, men became, they abandoned themselves, and women became manipulative. So a lot of boys growing up in the last few generations became chastised by their primary caregivers, and quite often they were in single parent environments. I know for me, I was brought up in a house full of women. God bless them all, they're just incredible souls. I had my male side kind of taken away from me to make me safe, or what they perceived to be safe from the male figures that they had around them. So I lost touch with my emotions and being able to express myself and all of the good stuff. And back to like the corporal punishment side of things, when from the slavery days of old, a good saying I came across recently is ego is an over-inflamed nervous system. So our nervous system is that which kind of controls pretty much everything, through hormones, through breathing. So that's our centre of ease and wellness. And when we live in fear of our triggers being pulled, we can never reach our full state of wellness, of wholeness. So we stay within the realms of being, well, not the creators we're meant to be, hey? We just exist as opposed to move in the direction of our dreams. So yeah, our bodies and the fear of just feeling emotions or receiving punishment or being abused by those around us. In my generation, we just missed out on corporal punishment. They banned it from schools. But kind of looking beyond that, and the generation before, people would have been controlled by belts and canes and just like properly beaten into submission, for stepping out of line. The father figures would have still been missing from the house. They'd have been either, busy at work, trying to build the empire that the competitive world said they should. They'd have been down the pub, they'd have been in the shed. So even a generation before, a lot of the men would have been brought up in male-orientated and female-orientated houses. I kind of consider myself lucky, hey, but that generation before, a lot of the children, and even in my generation, would have cowered when certain caregivers came back into the house through fear of what would happen retribution-wise from those caregivers. Like just the thought of children peeing their pants when people returned back to the house because of the patterns that were going on. So that fear is just like so deep within us. And that's happened generation after generation. So like on the karmic point of view, we have a natural fear of snakes and spiders, which a lot of us are inherently born with. And that's because that's been passed down over generation. And again, that sense of shame and fear has been passed down, not only on the cellular level within our bodies, which we pick up, but on a DNA level as well. So to be around at this time and to be able to share bits of my story and to be in a fortunate position where I've got so many loved ones around me, that enabling me to dig around within the depths of my own being and access those feelings of shame and feel them and recognise where they come from and forgive those people that have instilled that control over my own being, is releasing just so much karmic backlog from the collective that we're moving into a more beautiful world where we all recognise that each and every one of us is an expression of the whole, that free will is the prime directive of the universe, and that the concept of love that we grew up with has just been so misaligned. And actually the love that I was brought up with was control. It wasn't love. It was a need to keep people safe in a world driven by fear. So the love that we're moving towards now is that of unconditional love, and realising that everyone has their own intuitive channel and their own direction and their own life path to follow in this world. So I suppose going back to a few, like the boys being chastised, there was also, imagine single parents, whether male or female, having entered a relationship and then found themselves being single parents. And imagine that when they're away from people they know, they might have found themselves in different countries. That those children were their everything, they were their confidants. So in times of it just being the parent and the child, the parent would have told that child everything about their dislike and their anger at the other party within the plutonic unit. And children are sponges, hey, when they're younger, they take on everything. So that child would have then grown up with an ingrained pattern of, well, fuck man, my mom hates my dad and my dad hates my mom. And then back within the family unit, a lot of those children would have been scapegoated, where people can't take responsibility for themselves. And then a finger of blame, of I can't actually access these feelings within me and take ownership of what I've done, or recognise the patterns that we are moving through. Those children would have been scapegoated and blamed for the situation that those adults found themselves in. And this just kind of led to children being like mental illness, health problems, just a lack of belief within themselves, and then going through the whole pattern over and over and over again. You know, for our parents as well, and a lot of them started off with jobs that they really loved, and then as we gave away our production jobs to the east, they ended up in these just mundane jobs which were just about keeping us busy, hey, and just propping up the propaganda. So then these parents would try and live out their lives through their children, and quite often the only time that parents would show interest in their children is when they were doing something that they wanted to do themselves. And other than that, they wouldn't show any interest, none. Which is pretty demoralising, being as we're brought into a world where we're always seeking that external gratification. So like, oh look, am I good enough? Am I doing what you want me to do? I love that one where like a boy will either try and live up to his father's expectations or try and make up for his downfalls. So we're never truly living our own lives, and to recognise our own journey and what we're here for, and live our lives as we were meant to, is it's a pretty radical thing to do, hey? I know the patterns in my life, and I recognise them all too well. So yeah, to be able to recognise the new triggers, which is why, oh man, it's just, everything's connected, hey? So exercise is incredible for moving into the body, and being able to recognise the energy patterns or energy centres within us, and get that moving freely. Our diet and our stomach is, well, that is the centre of our emotions, our stomach. And when we eat dead things and processed food, our stomach and our feeling centre closes down. It's just full of crap. We've moved away from heart-centered consciousness and appreciating that everyone is doing the best they can. Yeah, we're moving, or we have done, we're back into our logic thinking minds. And we're facing that same reality that those guys who came from another planet did not so long ago. Unless we move into our emotions and we recognise our triggers. So meditation is huge, our diet, exercise. Meditation, as I was saying before, so our ego is an over-inflamed nervous system, which is known as the tree of life. And then meditation is food for that tree of life. So when we move from looking externally and we move internally, which gives us a chance to look at our thought patterns and those which repeat themselves over and over, gives us a chance to recognise our triggers. Meditation is just the most beautiful thing you can do. for helping us to access our feelings and feed our nervous system, which is that which provides energy throughout our bodies, and we're energetic beings, right? So everything is energy. So when we get stuck in the low-level emotions of shame, and they keep on getting triggered, then we keep on going through the same old treadmill day in, day out, unless we can feel it and express it. And do you know, it was a few days ago, I was fortunate enough, or rather the universe placed me in a situation again where I felt anger, and just to sit and actually feel that within my body and recognize it and just accept it was actually, you know, at the time it's uncomfortable, but from there on in we've had like cosmic giggles going on, and it feels like there has a lot of clearing. I expressed anger, which is something I haven't done, and when we can't communicate with our emotions, and when we can't express our anger, that's when all sorts of war and just horrible things erupt, because we can't speak openly, we can't be authentic. So it's a beautiful journey, and yeah, getting in touch with your shame and recognising where it comes from, recognising the triggers, not being afraid to feel, eating well, moving the body, meditating. It helps us move towards being an integrated being who has full body awareness, and in that enables us to move confidently and directly to that which serves us and our life purpose here on earth. Incredible time, hey? Incredible time. Life's an intelligent system, and we will always pull in the circumstances and people we need for us to turn and face our darkness and feel that which has laid repressed within us for a very long time. And when we do, oh yeah man, that's the magic. That's where it is. So for me, look, just huge thanks to so many people, but really Molly or MJ at All to Love, and the space you've provided, not only within me and the content you've put in your book, but the tribe, the Fearless Life Tribe. I'm hugely grateful. If any of you guys are on your awakening journey and you're looking for coaching or inspiration, or a light which might help shine a little bit of understanding on your own complexities, then All to Love, available on Facebook, and it's got a web page. I couldn't recommend enough. For everyone else, for all of those who came before and are sharing their own story, thank you so much. To all of those around me, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all so much. And to be part of the Cosmic Cleanup team, who is here to raise the vibration of this planet and move us into a world where we're all free to do what we do, we have prosperity and perfect health, and a future where our children can move forward without having to go through the suffering that we have through this time of separation. Is just, yeah, it's an incredible time to be around. So, hey, look, if you've got any questions, you're always more than welcome to get in touch. If you want to share your stories, then it would be great to have a conversation down below in the comments, or personally, send me a message. And other than that, yeah, your voice matters. Your well-being is just, that's what we're here for, hey? To regain that balance within, reignite the divine male, the divine masculine, and the divine feminine within us and become balanced beings. So there you go. I've been T-Red. This has been T-Trail. Love you all loads. So exciting to be around. And we'll see you out on the trail soon. Alright, peace.